All right. Hopefully everybody is ready to go. We start backups on Wednesday. Pretty good. Okay. We're good. We are good to go. Ready? All right, everybody. Let's see, everybody should be able to hear me now. Good evening to everybody out there. Oh, boy. Oh, somebody started out with a question already, and I like it. I do like it, although this is not a Q&A. I can't help it. Somebody said, Mike said Satan didn't lie to Eve yet. Satan said, surely you won't die. Did I miss something? Well, saying surely you won't die is like saying, well, you're not gonna die, just like be killed on the spot. And in so doing, he told the truth. So what was this lie? Deceit. By telling the truth, Satan deceives by getting people to disobey God. That deceit, by way of that truth, is a lie. Same things politicians do. They tell the truth to get to maneuver people. They do. Which is why in the book of Daniel it says they tell lies at one table. And that word lie implies a tactic for the most part. Not necessarily one, objective thing, but a tactic. It's good to be with you guys. I certainly do hope you read the broadcast for, let me see when that was. Make sure did you guys read the broadcast listing for, did you see Wednesday? Did you guys see that? Wednesday on the homepage of the Council of Time website. I certainly hope you did. Hope you saw that. Hope you can see that well. That's guaranteed. That's not a misprint. It's not wishful thinking. It's not an assumption. That's verified. See that? So when it says God said they will die, Satan said no. Satan said, well, you won't. You're not going to surely die. And so he said the truth. God said, in the day you do, you're going to die. Right? Did they die that day? No, they did not. They didn't die that day. So by telling the truth, Satan does this all the time, by conveying the truth. That's very difficult sometimes for people to really capture. Because, number one, they did not die that day. They didn't die the next day or the day after that. They did not. The path they took was death itself. But they did not die. So Satan said, boy, you're not going to really die. You're not going to, really die. Not today. Not this imminent death. Not this, immediate death. In so doing, he told the truth. Just like he does today. That's how people are deceived. If you've ever been deceived by a truth, right? Which most people have. And in fact, everybody has. They've been deceived by a truth. Everybody has. And it means that what Satan does is he gets people to veer off course. It was even confirmed. He said that you won't surely die. God just knows in the day you eat thereof, you're going to be like he is, knowing good from evil. That's exactly what was said by the living God. Man has become as one of us, knowing good from evil, unless he put forth his hand to the tree of life and live forever. So that's exactly what he said. There was no lie in that. So where was the actual lie? Where was it? It was the deceit. Because Satan will bend the truth all the time. It's still the truth. But he will convey it as though, there's no repercussion that's immediate. There's no repercussion that can really, do away with you or something like that. And so you operate for a little bit in that line, then boom, absolute destruction. The end of the path of Satan's truth is death, period. Period. He does that all throughout the Word of God. All throughout the Word of God. And that's his falsehood, his absolute deceit. When somebody tells the truth, to deceive a person, to get them to go into a different direction, that whole process is a lie. The entire process is a lie. Politicians do this all the time. And everybody gives politicians a pass. Everybody does. There's no politician I know of who has told the truth. Not one. Not one. You know what that means? No one is capable of telling the truth unless they utter a truth from the source of truth, which is the living God. A fact is not truth. Satan told them a fact. That's not truth, is it? A fact is not truth. Truth is something far different. In fact, truth is in a category all by itself, and it's not a fact. That's not what it is. A fact is not truth, and a truth is not fact. And Satan told Eve a truth. But his inflection, the way he told it to her, he created a desire. He gave her comfort in disobedience to the living God, which is why he said, you're not going to really die. You're not really going to die. Not right away, you're not going to die. He does that all the time. People do it too, all the time. All the time. If we maneuver a person by telling a truth, but we're maneuvering that person to get them to go a little bit further right or a little bit further left, that whole thing is deceit. It is deceitful to control someone when they don't know they're being controlled. That is deceitful. When you say, that's absolute deceit. But again, we live in a world based on that. Common culture is based on that. You guys have to forgive my sinuses are all over the place today. Probably the paint. You know, when you're doctoring up things, it gets outlandish. Things get fumes, start piling up, right? I had to seal the concrete in the base structure, and that's not fun at all. So anyway, that's where we are. Oh yes, and Wednesday is going to be a discussion of discussions. Listen, somebody said, what did somebody say back here? Just in case you have not read the homepage of COT, I'm going to read it to you real quick, if you don't mind. Earth Shift, and this is Wednesday at 7 p.m. Earth Shift 2024. Impact imminent. Confidence is high. In fact, across the board, it's already verified. 100% confidence. Just so you know, even with a missile, you don't really have 100% confidence, right? So it's up there. You know what that means? And I'm not saying this lightly. We're about to have an impact, a very real impact. A meteor will impact this earth. That's what we're going to discuss. I'm not going to give you the date until Wednesday. It will distract you because it's not years off. I'm sorry. And it is absolutely 100% certain it's going to smack the earth. And it's not years off. So we will discuss that. As I said before, we're quickly approaching a time where we entertained what could take place. Now we're going to be dealing with what do we do when it takes place. You're going to see many things move into that area of thinking, that type of scenario. People are dealing with the weather. The weather has come, right? Everybody seems to have the reasoning behind the weather. They're trying, listen, I'll tell you right now, they're trying desperately to determine why the weather is doing what it's doing. Let me tell you something I learned over the course of years. When man figures something out concerning nature, God will always add a few more things to totally disrupt what they thought. He'll do it every single time. Every time they believe that they have the right formula. And they start doing predictions, right? Because if you knew what was causing the weather, you could have accurate predictions, correct? Isn't that correct? You can have accurate predictions. In fact, you could predict the weather months in advance, right? But they can't. The weather forecast changes every 4 hours. Why? Why the big uncertainty? If they knew all the dynamics that took place in Earth, or just like fluid dynamics, do you not know that if you throw a rock, I'm going to give you an example. If you threw a rock in the Great Lakes, do you not realize there are computer simulations that can tell you how many waves that rock is going to emit, given the air, the direction of the air, the temperature, the speed, and it can do it quite accurately. Do you know that? So we can tell you how many ripples is going to be caused, when those ripples will totally degrade and deplete, what effect will be upon the water and the shore. A simulation can tell you all that because they know many variables about that. But with the weather, it changes every 4 hours. Every 4 hours. In fact, the predictions have been failing left and right. Have you noticed? Has anybody noticed the forecasts lately? Have you noticed? Have you noticed that meteorologists are frightened? It's almost like they're frightened. They have no confidence in certain forecasts that they have. And if you know about the weather, then you know that the 4 modeling systems do not agree with each other. They don't. They just don't, right? That implies that there are other forces in tow. And as soon as they have a handle on it, something changes. The constant of the dew point is slowly altering. It doesn't work like it used to. It doesn't. There are pressure differences we've never had on Earth before. It's changing. The boiling point is going to change all around the globe. All these different things are changing. Changing. Somebody says, is the confidence on it hitting because the Earth shifted 152 miles? Well, you know what? If the Earth shifted 300 miles, that's like saying you tilted your head the width of a human hair, basically. So 152 miles is not that much, believe it or not. It's not. It's almost negligible when it comes to forces, but it means everything with the moisture belt. I'm going to call it the moisture belt. It's changing. As I said before, the equator will not remain where it is. It will not. It's going to shift northward. It will. Just as the weather has been changing rapidly since 2015, so will the equator shift consistently, and it's going to end up in the USA, in the northern hemisphere, and those parts. What happens in this whole process? We have something that will utterly shift everything in our solar system. The Earth will not maintain its orbit. We're not going to maintain the orbit. The Earth will not. It's just not. Mercury is going to be a big problem for us. We're going to have some flybys that's going to scare everybody. I know one rock is going to fly by at least 5 times and skim our atmosphere, right? They were measuring, dealing with Apophis, they were measuring if it was going to enter into the keyhole or not, but certain things have taken place. Now it's impossible for them to even estimate if it will hit the keyhole or not. In other words, concerning Apophis, they are in the blind. They're in the blind. 2027 looks like a year of preparation. That's what it looks like. Because all bets are off. 25, if we don't, well, things are going to happen in 25. Things will happen in in 25. So we should all get ready for that. But no impact, no known impact is supposed to happen in 25. Okay? No known impact, that is. I'm not saying nothing will impact the earth because we don't know. They don't know. Nobody knows. I don't know. They don't know. There are too many unknowns out there. But after 25 and after mid-26, there are no promises. They know for a fact the earth is going to get hit. They know that. They know it. And it's not by itself. There's some more lined up to do this. They know it, and they have to prepare for it. And it is quite serious. So you'll see a lot of things altered. You will. But they know. They know about that. I just want you guys to know about it without falling apart. That is, it's no good to fall apart. But if people know about it, well, they can be a bit prepared for it, right? If they know about it. But it is going to impact. They have, you guys remember a couple of years ago, I said, we're going to get something's going to hit the oceans, right? We're going to have an impact in the oceans. You guys remember that? Well, it was dealing with that same system of objects, except the estimates, right? The estimates were off. You're talking about a different object that will destroy some things when it comes in. Now, this is not a movie. That's for real. It's absolute. It is absolute, right? And we're going to have that impact. We're going to have an impact, but we'll discuss that Wednesday. Right. So that means, at least if that were the only impact, you have about a year and a half to a couple of years to get some things together. But that's it. That's all. It's coming. And it's plowing everything down on its path. And it's just simply in a par space that is not so dense. So it's not going to face any opposition. It's coming. Somebody said, if the equator moves and magnetism draws meteorites to Mexico, then will those impacts be more north too? Everything will. Everything will. The magnetic field lines of the earth, the shielding of the earth is largely due to the magma underneath and the elemental composition of the crust, because there are a lot of metals in the earth. Now, based on all that movement, we have field lines of magnetic force, right? We also have external from that. When you're dealing with magnetics, there's also a type of pressure band around that magnetic field itself. It's a pressure band, seldom discussed, but you can find out information on it. And in that pressure band, it will destroy or sustain atmospheres. So these variations, what we're so used to, is going to be a constant change in life as we know it. And things will progressively get worse and worse. For example, the water event. Without a tsunami, without a massive earthquake, one day people are going to walk outside and step right into water. In fact, it'll be water as far as you can see. Now, that water is not going to be 50 feet deep. Just imagine those who live in Arizona, for example. If you walk out your front door and you see 4 inches of water, or you just look out and it looks so odd because the sky is perfectly reflected from the ground, right? Just imagine that. So water is going to be everywhere, everywhere. It's not going to take a tsunami or any of those forces. We have an issue with some of the constants that have governed the movement of the earth, because everything is changing. Everything is in motion. You know that. Everything is in motion. And so it was never guaranteed that the earth would stay in its orbit, that all the planets would stay in their orbits. That was never a guarantee. The chemical composition of the sun is changing. Jupiter's also changing. Between the sun and Jupiter, right? Jupiter is known as, I'm not going to go into, anybody's theology, but Jupiter's the gatekeeper. Why is it the gatekeeper? Because it attracts rocks and everything else that will come into the solar system as it orbits. It has such a gravitational pull that normally it protects us from objects that would come into our solar system, except this time we have a different galaxy, I guess you could say, or a set of forces that are 90 degrees offset from our solar system, right? So they're not at that plane, the ecliptic, right? They are 90 degrees offset. So once those forces enter into our solar system, we're going to start to see a lot of rocks coming from the northern quadrant and the southern quadrant, right? In relation to our solar system, not in relation to the Earth, which means instead of that, the rim of that vortex that we see our solar system is traveling in, you're going to have things come from the top and from the bottom. Just think of a spinning top, right? Normally, meteorites and all this debris will come in at a pretty shallow angle, not too steep of an angle, come into our solar system. It's affected by the inner planets, and then it's kicked back out, or it gets sucked into the sun, and it's a slingshot effect as it goes back out again. But this time, celestial mechanics is going to be a bit different as it imposes forces upon any incoming object, because inertia is going to be different, which means the center of mass of our solar system is going to be different, which means objects are going to come into a certain place in our solar system with little to no resistance, and it's going to have an effect on the inner planets for the first time in a long time. Of course, we know what happened before because all the inner planets are pummeled, even the Earth, right? We know what happened before. And we also have the Bible that lets us know that this time that we're going into has not happened before. It hasn't. When the stars of heaven fall to the earth like figs when they're shaken of a mighty wind. Right? That's mentioned in Revelation. It's also mentioned in the Old Testament. In Isaiah, right? That same thing is going to happen. It's the first time the sky will depart as a scroll when it's rolled together. You can't find that anywhere else in the Bible. You can't find that description, yet it's in the Old Testament. So John, the Revelator, is not the only one who saw that. He's not. The prophets saw it too. But it's the first time. Jesus said there'll be no other time. In fact, Jesus said there was no other time like it before that time, to that time, or will be after that time. So it's going to be bad. Not one believer should ever worry about that, though. When you worry about times like that, you get nervous. You do. You get nervous. You start looking at the integrity of whatever's told you dealing with these prophecies, and people get scared. That's why I am just patiently anticipating the spiritual manifestation and change in the earth, because I know it's going to wake a lot of you up. See, when you find out that the boogeyman is powerless against you, you'll be set free by way of your fear in a lot of subjects. When you find out it's not going to be like you thought, it will not be like your imagination stated it would be, and as we discussed last night, the imagination is the big liar within us, is it not? Our imagination lies. The imagination is horrible. Last night, just in case you weren't here, I discussed the imagination, right? How that often we imagine the worst case scenario in our lives of something coming to pass, and it never comes to pass like we imagined. But we get fearful. We treat people wrongly, right? Don't we? We mistreat people because of what we think the outcome will be. And it never turns out the way we imagined it. I don't know about you, but nothing ever turns out the way that I imagined it. It certainly never turned out the way fear conveyed it. Never turned out that way. What about you in your life? What about you in your life? fear is a liar, which is why I was talking about lying last night. Because there's something that utilizes fear. Fear is a brother or relative of something else that's going to be utilized in this time. The time you're living in right now, they're going to break ground. They will. The kids that are in this earth right now, they truly will turn against their parents. Already you can see the kids think of their parents as a hindrance. Now, if you have good children, thank God for that. Everybody does not have that. They don't. They just don't have that. There's a work to be done. There is. But it's not time to give into the imagination now. Now is the time to stand up with sobriety. Do all of what you can do. The hardest days are coming. It's what Christians fear the most. I don't know why, but they do. Maybe they have not learned that through hardship, great joy is found. I would never have joy if I did not go through most of what I went through. It's when you're delivered from something awful, you have the greatest joy. Do you know that? Somebody said, fear, false evidence appearing real? No, the evidence coming forward is going to be absolutely 1,000% real. And there are going to be foolish people that think otherwise, and will die on the spot from that evidence. You know, the Bible is quite clear about what's going to happen. There's going to be a lot of foolish people involved. My advice is this. As for me, I'm not going into a tomorrow that the Lord has blessed me with any preconceived notions. My ears are going to be tuned toward the Lord, not toward my visual of what I think the end is. I will certainly not lean unto my own understanding, but I will constantly await instruction and revelation from the living God. Any theories or anything that I have, it will not translate to the future with me. I'll never do that again. There will never come a time when I trust anything in my imagination, but I will trust the words of the Lord. And he will have things revealed to me. I trust this process. I do not trust anybody's outlook on anything that would ever happen in the future, including mine. We can have hints of things that may be close to what the future brings, but I've looked at the fruit through time at all who said they knew what was coming, and they did not. I looked at the fruit of those who were told what was coming by the living God, and they did know. I looked at the fruit of those who theorized, and they didn't know either. Many people died because they did not know. And make no mistake, what you don't know can kill you. It can. It can hurt you pretty bad. That's why the Lord does not want us ignorant. He doesn't want us blind walking into tomorrow. All we have to do is walk by faith, which is trusting in him, and he will have things revealed to you. But there are many people that will deceive themselves, just like the word says. Did not the word say that people deceive themselves? Can't you see a narrative being formed right now? Many different narratives, and people are going to believe in those narratives in the absence of any other narrative. Some people have hopped from theory to theory so long they don't know what to believe. But here in this place, hopefully you're encouraged to stay within the realm of the Word of God, to trust what the Lord has told you, and to wait for the revealing of his truth. You'll never be caught off guard with that. Right? You'll never be caught off guard. All you have to do is remember that men can speculate and guess and wonder and imagine, but your Father in heaven will convey the truth and the truth only. He will not deceive you. He will always give you the truth. He will have things revealed. You will be armed correctly, but always take note. Your Father works by necessity. He does no vain thing. So he's not going to give you something 50 years in the future so that you can sit back comfortable, right? Not worrying about a thing. That's not the way he works. When you need to have something, he's going to give it to you. When you need to know something, he's going to convey it to you. When you need to make a move, he'll instruct you. That's what he does. Now, if he speaks to a prophet or somebody who is speaking the word of God, if you look historically, those prophets who spoke, they spoke thousands of years before the event took place. So you look back in Ezekiel's time and Isaiah's time, they thought they were liars and fools, didn't they? Why? Because what they had to say applies today. It didn't really apply back then. They couldn't see it back then. We see it today. We depend on that today. Even the tiny, tiny things the Lord gives me, what he gave me a long time ago, we're just now saying today, those things he gave me, not the things that, I assumed or guessed at or whatever. No, the things he gave me. I can trust that. I can't trust what comes up in my head all the time or what I think, because I'm still in the flesh. The Lord gave us revelation, didn't he? Why would he perpetuate a book, have people die, fight over that book only to get to us? Why does he want us to know what Revelation is? Why is that book the book that has witnesses? Everything in that book was written by way of a witness, except one thing. But why? I'll tell you something. If God tells you something early, you better believe it's going to hold a profound change when it happens. It means it's heavy. Revelation is heavy. It's heavy for the unbeliever. If you are a believer and read the book of Revelation, there's no way in the world you should have any fear. Fear comes in when we are not doing what we know we can do. That's why we fear. We fear because we are not doing what we know we are capable of doing. Wouldn't that be fair to say? I know in my case, the only time I ever entertained fear about anything that was ever going to come is when I knew I did not live up to the understanding the Lord has given me. In other words, I got lazy in some areas of life. I became lazy and I was not vigilant in certain areas. I did not master everything he gave me to master. I didn't. I haphazardly went through things. To familiarize yourself with something is one thing. To learn something is different. And I familiarized myself with some things. I don't live like that anymore. I simply seek, even right now, I simply seek to master those things the Lord has given me to master. It's as simple as that. I do not worry about those things I do not know how to do. I don't worry about them. I worry about the things that the Lord has given me understanding of. That's what I'm accountable of. Think of it as sheep. What you understand, that's your sheep. And if you understand a few things, you have a few sheep. Now you're charged to take care of those sheep, to know those sheep, right? To be a good shepherd over those sheep, a good steward to take care of them. You are not charged to take care of the sheep down the road because that's not your sheep. God gave you a certain amount of sheep that you are to care for, to know, right? To be a good shepherd of, to be a good steward of. He grants you things. He grants you knowledge. Think of the knowledge that you have. There are certain things you know. There are certain things you may not know. Here's a question. Are you living by those things you know? See, that's what your charge is. Guilt comes in. Nervousness comes in. Fear comes in when we are not living by those things that the Lord has given us knowledge of. And it's not a hard task. God has given you understanding of his word in certain areas. So then walk by that word you do understand. Really know that you know about what he's giving you understanding of. That's your lot in life, right? He didn't give you the whole word and say, hey, you gotta master all this. That's not what he does. He gave us all a portion of that word. He did. He did. A portion of, not the whole word. Together we have the whole word. Together we know the whole word. But individually, he has given us things in part. Tiny morsels of something greater. The question is, what have we done with the tiny morsel? Some people, they have an understanding of a portion of the Word of God. They don't want that. They want what somebody else has. And so what they do is they end up neglecting the understanding the Lord has given them to try and attain something else. And the Lord has parables about this. He does. Right? He does. We know that he requires us to be good stewards. He did not burden us with a bunch of stuff. He didn't do that. But what did he say about us? He said we were rebellious children. He did. I know that gets to certain people who say, I'm not rebellious. Right? I'm not. So your father said different through Christ. We want to be right about things. What the Lord has given us naturally, we discount. We want something greater. We always want that thing that puts us ahead of somebody else. Remember that soldier? The soldier that was in the Roman army, and that soldier said, Lord, what must I do to be saved? And the Lord said, be content with your wages and exact no more than what's been given to you. He essentially told that soldier, right? He said, man has given you a responsibility, and by oath you've accepted that responsibility. Do what you said you were going to do, and don't seek to do all the extra stuff against humanity or your enemy or whatever, but do what's required of you, and be content with your position. I look back in the Old Testament, you know what he was saying? You know what he said? Take the position of humility that I may get you out, that I may fulfill that to get you back on solid ground. Not that a soldier is bad, but there's always a conflict in being a soldier, period. There's always a soldier or person who will exact more upon somebody than what they're given a charge to exact. In other words, like some of these, you have bad soldiers, you have bad police officers, you have bad security guards and stuff like that. And sometimes they go too far. And when they go too far, problems start, right? Sometimes they go too far. The Lord said, don't go too far. Just do your job. Why would the Lord ever say that? Because he's involved in the orders that will come down to that individual. That I know too. The Lord will make a difference in your life, whether you're a soldier or not. The Lord will make the difference. He will always make the difference. He will always be involved in those who are given charge over you. Always, always, always. That means he'll change the heart of leadership for your sake, is what he'll do. Do you hear me? That's what he'll do. If we would just seek to obey the Lord. This election, for example, is not going to be what people want it to be. I think every day as people are asking me who I'm going to vote for, I'm going to start saying Kermit the Frog. I'm going to vote for Kermit. I say that because, folks, I don't like violence. I do not. I loathe violence. I can't take it. I don't like all the extra stuff. And people are worth so much more than lip service. They really are. But this election is too divisive. It's just too divisive. It's almost like it brings a foulness out of people. Now, the Lord told us that we could see certain things at work, and right now in this election, I see darkness at work. It's bringing the vileness out of everybody. I mean, they're becoming vile. vile. They're acting like teenagers. It's uncalled for thing. It makes you not want to be in the process, period. It does. I'm not like some people have the idea, yeah, we're going to crush the other side. Because I realized something in the middle of combat. That my enemy is somebody just like me who is given a task against me. And if mankind did not manipulate things like they did, me and that enemy would not be at war. So I realized they are me and I am them. We're all on earth in God's process. And Satan is trying to get everybody to not even think about that. If you're here on this earth and you're in the flesh, you are in God's process. And there are forces on this earth that, if you're not careful, will cause you to totally forget that. And when you forget it, that's when you begin to injure other people, harm other people. There are too many things that are just totally fake in this world. Like a fake embrace, right? I can't stand those. The cordial things that people do. Shaking somebody's hand when you can't stand them. That's why I don't do the shaking hands thing. I'm not going to shake somebody's hands falsely either. Not going to do that. And why won't I? Because just like you, I've been embraced by people who have stabbed me in the back multiple times. And you know that means the embrace was fake in the first place. Too much of that all around the world. That's why one day, and I'll get off this subject, one day, I know this through and through, to the core of my bones, one day, 3/4 of this population is going to change so fast. It'll be like you're going to be going through your daily routine, then all of a sudden, you're going to see people who begin to respond to something you cannot see. They're going to start carrying out instructions that you cannot hear. You're going to join the rest of those just like you who have no clue what these people are doing. They're going to be from every walk of life. They will not talk to each other. They're simply going to start doing things. And they're going to be so highly coordinated, it's going to make your mind spin. And when they tell people, they're going to give people instruction. Like if they were to tell an old lady, go into your house now, and she does not move, they're going to kick her and beat her all the way to the front door. And there's nothing you'll be able to do about it. They're going to demand that people do things right after they tell them. And if they don't, those people are going to start suffering. They will lock everybody in their homes and nobody's going to step foot outside. Everybody's going to tune to their television only to find old programming. You're going to turn to your computer and it's going to force you to pull out some old TV. You're not going to be chatting with anybody. Your phone's going to be working for one express purpose, to get your assignment. You watch and see. And how it's going to be like a force is going to take over this country. This country. And confusion of faces will be all over this land. And people will say, they won't be able to comprehend what took place. I ask you this, what are they doing right now? What are they doing? Are they thanking God for the land the Lord put them in? Or are they actively defiling it by constantly scheming up plans against their brother? The very thing God hates, they do. Isn't that society? Society is full of folks who conspire against their neighbor. You think the Father is pleased with that? You think he's going to bless that? I beg to differ from everybody who thinks otherwise. A purging is coming. A purging. Only after the purging will peace be restored. but it will be a divine peace. Every idol is going to be knocked down, but during this time, this is going to catch people off guard. God gave us time, didn't he? He gave us a lifetime. God gave us a lifetime. Not one of us can say, I didn't have enough time. Not one of us. In truth, we can't say that. We can't say to him, he did not give us enough time. We can't say that. What did we do with our time? We controlled it. We controlled our own time. And we were full of folly, playing around, giving ourselves time to get things right. Remember back in the day when a person says, oh, don't worry about that. God will give you time to get that worked out. People were giving themselves time that God never gave them. I'll tell you something. God gives us just enough time to work everything out. Just enough time. You know and I know that in our lives we've taken the time God has granted us for granted, haven't we? He is kind, he is merciful, he is. He is long-suffering, but everything is now coming to a close. And if the Lord does not speed things up, when the violence begins, no flesh would survive. You remember that scripture? If God had not cut time short, no flesh would have been saved. That means everything would have died. This is the violence in mankind. And their violence, to participate in that violence or act in that violence is just like bowing to Satan himself. Whatever we participate in is our approval. You know that. So if we participate in the violence, we approve the violence. As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord and stand for his principles and values. But there will be no compromises here, not here. I know what that is. I hope that many of you who may not know what that is, I hope you learn what that is quickly, because time is going to challenge everybody left. All of us can spiritually sense time coming, which is why every day you wake up, you hop on the internet, your devices, you're looking for what went wrong. I know something is going to go wrong. What is it? You want to find it out. You're trying to find out because everything is telling you. Everything is conveying to you that things are being held back. How many feel like that? How many of you feel honestly like things are being held back? But only when you talk to a worldly person do you begin to consider, well, maybe we have, 100 years left or something like that. That only happens when you talk to somebody who does not believe in your Father in heaven and your Lord. You start thinking, well, maybe the Lord won't come back at all in the next 100 years. But when you are around believers, when you're praying, when you're in your word, all of a sudden you get this urgent sensation that time is almost up. I mean, this is a collective, spiritual thump on the head. We can't deny that. Collectively, we know things are being held back. People are always talking about earthquakes and fault lines and what's going to happen. Well, you know how they say we're overdue for this earthquake, we're overdue for this volcanic eruption, we're overdue for this impact, right? You know how they say that? Why? It's been a long time since civilization was decimated by such things, because things are being held back. Those folks at JPL know it for real. Those folks at the ISS know it for real. They know it for real. Their own little way, they try to present things. Things are held back big time. We know it. My encouragement is we do not waste our time. Because when it unfolds, I think that just about all of you have had some sort of spiritual warning that when it breaks out, there's no putting it back in the bottle. And not one of us has an excuse either. Because we've been given everything and every opportunity, and we know it. We know it. That's why this time will be different than any other. Because men will actually start to see God's real judgment. His real finite decision. They're going to begin to see it. And when they see that, it's game over. Be back in a few minutes right here at COT. Okay, I'm back. Let's see where I'm at. Let me take this off. Pause for you guys. I think, oh, there it is. Okay, there it is. Right one. All right, everybody, I'm back again. Hey, do you guys remember I said something crazy the other day? 3 things. I told you guys to write it down. Do you remember? It began with flares. Flares. Anybody remember what that was? Anybody? Somebody has to remember. Flares, tornadoes, loss of life. Did you guys forget already? Did you forget already? Flares, tornadoes, loss of life. When did I say that? I forgot when I said that. Help me out. When did I say that? Anyway, one of you should go find it. That's a sequence. A sequence. A sequence given before the sequence. Right? A sequence. Somebody says 9-5. That was on the 5th? That's when it was? Okay. I'm going to write that down. You guys are supposed to be helping me out. We are, by the way, a council, right? We're a council. Correct? 9-4. There you go. 9-4. Gotcha. That's exactly what it was. I hope. I don't know. I can't remember. But I know it was before. I spoke with Pastor Paul. It was before that. Just can't remember exactly when. Yeah, it was a Wednesday. Okay. Somewhere around Tuesday or Wednesday. Okay. It's on the recording, so if you find that on the recording, let me know, because I think Flash is pretty good at posting things the next day, so it should be the day of or the day prior unto that. Flares, tornadoes, loss of life. You can find that, by the way. Just so you know. You can find it. Now, where were we? Oh, by the way, guys, I know you guys have been asking about the KD files, right? I was almost not going to have a broadcast, right? Because the KD page is being redone in a hurry. I got to redo this stuff in a hurry. I can see something coming down the pike, and so I got to beat the flood, so to speak, and get some things out there. I have to beat the time here. So there's been a lot of work happening in the background, and the KD files is about to be one of them. I ended up rewriting quite a bit, and I already know I'm going to need some folks up to date on AI, and I'll train you on that as best I can. Okay, I put a brand new telephone on this desktop, so we can have open communication, right? Kind of like a conference call. A lot. It's going to take a few of them. A lot. It is not going to be fun. It's going to be mostly development, right? And likely lots of prayer in between. But it really is time to roll. I've also been working on the cleaning up everything for presentation so that people can actually walk in and enjoy themselves and to start going to work. The first set of people will start going to work very soon in COT. COT's its chain of addresses is also being set up, right? Now, where's this going to go? I don't know. I'm just being obedient. I'm setting this up as best I can to get this thing up, running, and out of the way. Okay? So all these things are happening all at one time. All of them are. That's my deal. I didn't tell you guys this, but I almost was taken out of the whole picture, right? There's been a fight in the background. Big fight in the background. You know, the Bible says, don't let your left hand know what your right hand is doing. And the reason why I did not tell anybody about the fight, sympathy is not something that I would ever need. No, I don't need that. I need strong people who believe in, who are focused on a path and can see the victory, right? See the victory of whatever the Lord has given us. When you slow down because of sympathy and things like that, it cultivates a spirit that I just simply can't adopt. I can have sympathy on others, right? But when you're going forward in a cause, that cause does not need sympathy. It needs obedience at all costs, correct? And so that's where I have to go with that. So I didn't want to slow down by, or get into a frame of mode where you start doing things for the wrong reasons. Does that make sense? Right? And plus, this is my gift. This is something I'm doing just like the Lord told me. I'm doing this to give it to the people so that you guys can establish things and go forward with quite a bit. But I have to do my part. My little part. It's not easy, of course. It's not easy, but it's worth it. It is. Because you're going into a time that you may not believe. You are. All of you are. And it's a shame that it cannot be conveyed, that we live in such a time where everybody has a theory. You don't know what to believe. Unfortunately, the unfortunate part is this. Once you start seeing it, either a person will act right away or it's going to be too late for that person. We know in the Bible it is going to be too late for quite a few. For a lot of people. Right? God will have a remnant. Not the whole, the remnant. Remember that. The earth is about to be spoiled. It's already laden with sin and iniquity. And you know the promise of when the process of the Lord takes place. Does everybody understand that everybody should know this without confusion, without theories or anything else. I'm going to ask you something. I'm going to see if I can get the same answer. When does the Lord begin the absolute final process? There's one answer. It is biblical. When does he do this? Anybody know? It marks the last process. The last process begins when this takes place. There is no hesitation. When this takes place, there's no hesitation between that time, that day of that declaration. Most of what a person fears in this life period, it takes place. But do you know when that is? Anybody? It is the greatest sign anybody on earth can see. Does anybody know when that is? Anybody? And it's biblical. So yes, there is a sign. There is a sign that is so massive. Nobody, even a person who doesn't know Scripture very well, will be able to see this sign so easily. So easily. There's a key to seeing this sign, though. You cannot be absolutely 100% totally corrupted. Somebody says last trump. Somebody said Jerusalem or personal. We're taking Jerusalem or personal day of the Lord. When the abomination of desolation arrives, all those are good. But a lot of people We don't even know absolutely what the abomination of desolation is. We do not, do we? We don't know for certain. Somebody says the sun darkens and the moon is red. Well, that happens before the great and notable, terrible day of the Lord does come, yes. But some people don't know that. They don't know that. Right? Somebody says when the Antichrist demands to be worshipped, well, the world's not going to call him the Antichrist. And so a lot of people don't know that either. The two witnesses. A lot of people won't see them as two witnesses. They'll see them as obstructionists. Revealing of the Antichrist. Again, the world will not be able to recognize the Antichrist as the Antichrist. They're going to see him as a solution. He's going to be their guy to get things done. The sky rolls away like a scroll. Some people will not have the wherewithal to be able to see that. It's a massive sign. Do I have your gears going? Are your gears going? Everybody? Are your gears going? I'm making it so dramatic so you'll never forget. Really don't want you to forget. Because if you can remember this, it will it will inspire you a great deal. If you knew what it was, you would actually be inspired. You would see the truth of it, but you would be inspired. Somebody says a great earthquake. Well, all those things are good, right? But they're also, an earthquake would be regional, based upon communication of a person. If it's a great earthquake, right? Well, people will have hit the hills. That actually happens at a time when things have already begun. All right. I've stalled enough. You guys don't mind if I read it to you, do you? You want me to tell you? If I told you, you'd go find it. You would. You'd go find it. There's a word that covers this sign. Here it comes. That word is iniquity. Listen. When iniquity, when the wickedness is great in the earth, that's when God sends the harvesters. That's when he says, get ye down there, for the wickedness is great. When the fats overflow, right? Every single time. When iniquity is great in the earth. In Proverbs, what does it say in Proverbs? What does it say? When iniquity flourishes like the grass, it is because it is going to be removed forever. Iniquity will be wiped away from the face of the earth. That is the Father's act. That's his implementation of that. We know that when we go in the book of Joel, we start to see the iniquity is great in the earth. What happens? The angels are sent to harvest. Remember the harvest Jesus talked about? The angels would be sent. The tares are going to be gathered together. Listen, iniquity marks is that great sign. That's right. The rottenness of people on this earth, iniquity, immoral acts. Do you know we're at the height? Iniquity is so high right now. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And what does God call iniquity? He named it. He named what it was. We see it all around, and it has spread. It has spread all over the place. We see it every single day. Every single day. But it's beginning to overflow. It's overflowing. The wickedness is great upon the earth. Why? How do we know this? Because for the first time in modern history, iniquity is sanctioned by all countries in policy. It's never happened like that before. All countries have approved iniquity. Do you guys remember 1980? When you had your girlfriend or boyfriend, you would always get to talk. You guys remember that? Didn't matter who you were, somebody was going to talk to you. Hey, you know that one day you should get married. You used to hear that term all the time. You should get married. You should get married. You should get married. Correct? You don't hear that today, do you? You don't hear that. Two people dating. Nobody's talking about you should get married. They don't say that anymore. It has left the hearts of people. Right? So that principle that the Lord God gave us is gone. Nobody talks about that anymore. They don't talk about that. Back in the day, if you liked somebody, that topic was coming up. And God forbid, if you had a brand new person beside you and you walk past your own grandmother, hey, let me tell you something. Because some grandmothers would tell you what the Lord did not like adultery, like how wrong it is to sleep in the same bed and you're not married. They had morals. You don't hear that today. In fact, it went a step further. Not only did they throw marriage out, but they brought something else in that's marked with a sign of the greatest abomination there could ever be. See, when God gives man a sign of his kindness, and then man, by reason of policy, changes that sign into some sanctioned iniquity that is spitting in the Father's face by way of his authority, that is absolutely casting God's authority to the ground, that is casting. Can you imagine if you did a heartfelt deed, like you gave your nephew or your niece or your son or your daughter a present that you saved up all year to get, and you hand them that present, and they open that present up, and then they look at you and say, this is the stupidest gift I've ever received, and they throw it on the ground and walk off. Would that break your heart? Of course it would. You know why? Because you invested everything into getting that gift. You put your love in that gift. It's more than just some object. You just handed somebody your heart. And when they throw it to the ground, they just cast your heart to the ground and stomped on it. So when man takes what is sacred by way of God's heart, he gave us a sign by way of his heart, by way of his love, that he would not destroy this earth again by water. He gave us a sign. So when they take that same sign and they use it for an abomination in God's eyes, and it becomes the calling card for this whole movement thing all over the earth, they just cast God's love straight to the ground. They just spit in the face of the covenant he made with us. See, that covenant's protecting us, not the living God. That protects us. That reminds God that he will not destroy us by water again. So what do we do with that? Humanity took that same symbol, took it, and now they're using it to do the very thing God said don't do, and they're doing it without shame in view of everybody. Do you think that's going to come with high repercussions? Because now it's sanctioned in every single country. Do you think that comes with no consequences? That the earth as a whole, the people of this earth, would cast the kindness of the Lord down to the ground and stamp it to pieces? There's scriptures about that. You know that's in the Bible, that people would do just that thing in the end of time. They've already done that. We're past that point, and something is coming. Nothing will stop it. See, this is a point where we cannot be naive and act like that does not exist. We can act like it does not exist. There's an authoritative power in this earth, and it is dark. It is steadily rising, and the more Christians bicker and fight, the more they're not interceding and praying for those who housed the darkness in the first place. So it is passing policies left and right. Forget about any specific person. This is 1,000% spiritual. It does not matter who leads whatever country. I tell you this, whoever leads this country, if they're not absolutely covered by the blood of the Lamb and have chosen Jesus Christ, and it's marked in their deeds, in their speech, in their activities, they're going to be used by darkness. Do you hear me? Those who entertain satanic tools in the slightest will be used by Satan, the greatest. Do you hear me? You know what that means? If a person is still out there cursing That's something slight, right? The word says, let no corrupt communication be spoken out of your mouth. We're to separate from all forms of darkness. Those who continue to accept any portion of darkness, who do that knowingly and refuse to overcome it, falling away is underway. It's underway. It's happening. It's not coming. These things are not coming. Why do we continue to look over the abominations of this earth? How they cast God's principles down to the ground and stomped on them. We continue to look over that saying, oh, the end is coming, but it's not now. Sure it is. This is a high point of iniquity. They're already passing policy that it's legal for women to go around topless. The world is going to see it as something else that happened. Do you guys not know that? Remember when VCRs first came out? Pornography was a thing. Nobody talks about it anymore. Do you know why? Because anybody can see it. It's no big deal anymore. The problem is still there, but it's absolutely accessible. And no one need know if you can access it or not. That's why it's not coming up. It used to come up because people got caught. Nobody cares about catching anybody watching nudity anymore. Man is lost. He's lost so much. Do you know relationships, they can't work and have the same critical value they once did? If nudity is all over the place, then the idea of a person being decent, being covered, that no one can see that person, they're not communal property, and having certain acts be intimate, that's lost. By and large, for a lot of people. Do you know that the average person right now, the average person, I can't remember the age group, but do you not know they date at least 6 partners a year? And that's supposed to be normal. Did you know that? What do you call that? Adultery. Whoremongering. That's what you call it. Do you see what's happening? This world is like a cesspool. It's quickly becoming worse, much worse than Sodom and Gomorrah. Do you know there are people out there right now? They try to get any angelic being, and you guys must not know. You know, if you've closed yourself off to the world, you may not know this. Do you know there's a recent star, a singer, a star, that confessed that they were sleeping with a fallen angel? Do you know there's a group of Christians who admitted that a fallen angel was coming in their dreams and they were sleeping with this fallen angel, knowingly? Lord have mercy. Do they not know what they're doing? It's happening too much. It's all over the earth. Violence is just like adultery. It is. It kills wherever it goes. People are justifying their abominations that they practice. They're justifying it. I don't know about you, but I'm not interested in justifying an abomination. And now more and more every single day. See, I'm going to be straight with you. I know I'm going to get myself in trouble. I'm going to say it anyway. I really was hoping for change in America prior to this election, but it's not happening. It's not happening. Things have become more militant. They found 2 more militias ready to intercede, to interact. There are more and more teenagers who are armed, threatening their schools. Somebody said, Michael, is she free of it, that star that's sleeping with the fallen angel? No. Let me tell you what she said. The fallen angel has given her knowledge. It has profaned the name of the Most High, and she believes it. She does not believe that Jesus is the only begotten of the Father, nor the Word of God. She doesn't believe that. She said the fallen angel said he was a dragon. That was his true identity. He was a dragon. She doesn't care. She loves him anyway. She does. She's not the only one. There are hundreds of thousands of women just like her that do the exact same thing. Some are believers and some are non-believers. But then she started spewing in this weird knowledge. This same person spoke in tongues, the wrong tongues that you should never speak by. Somebody said, Billie Holiday? No. We're talking about somebody else who's alive today. Because this person just recently, I believe it was Saturday, disclosed this whole thing. Saturday. She disclosed the whole thing, right? She is, to current count of those who are singers right now, she is number 15 or 16. She's number 15 or 16 of those who have come out to say something. Because with TikTok and all these things, you can't help but to talk about something, right? So that's what they talked about. Right? Somebody says that Lady Gaga, no. This person is young. This person they said they're a light worker. Do you know, it's amazing what's happened to this world. Do you guys listen to the music of a witch? I hate to tell you this, but anybody who listens to music unknowingly has already heard a witch and a warlock. But here's what you may not know. That music has done is fighting you at every turn. And that's why it's so hard to give that music up. It's hard to make that decision. In fact, their work will cause you to defend your position of listening to a certain type of music. Do you know that's also in certain Christian songs too? The work of a witch or warlock is in the same thing. Do you know that? I tell you what, you guys are guessing names. Somebody give me an actress or an actress name that you would say 1,000% has nothing to do with any of that. And I'll give you my honest. If I know something, I'll give you an answer. If I don't know, I'm not going to guess. I'll just say, well, I don't know about that one. But if I know, I'm going to give you an honest answer. So ask me about any actor out there that surely this person can't be a part of the foolishness. Somebody said, I think he's talking about Taylor Swift. Nope, that's an obvious one. That person already told people things. Somebody said Katy Perry, Miley Cyrus, Taylor Swift. Nope, not talking about them either. Those are obvious. I'm talking about high-level witches, full incantations of demonic names that nobody should ever utter. And they work by that power in the realm of light. Somebody said, Dolly Parton. No. I'll put it this way. There are things happening all around you. So they said Beyonce. Well, you know, the family in New Orleans. There's a shop. There are some known shops in New Orleans. The families of certain singers are always found at these shops. There's only a few things you can get from those shops, and they know their families on a first-name basis. In fact, many of those stars know these people on a first-name basis. What you may not know is that if they do not recruit, they are totally harassed by entities. They must recruit young people. Do you know that? I know I shouldn't say that, but that's just the way it works. And listen, don't think it's a game either, because if you're ever near these people and they're not recruiting, you're going to be, everything about you can be seen and called out. They know how to quickly get anybody out of the way. You're talking about the real deal. The ones who can bring the pain, the forces, and everything else. In this earth, working, they're in high demand. Those concerts are recruitment tools. Do you know that? It looks innocent. Oh, you just go pay money to go see a concert. Wrong. If you've ever looked into any of these concerts, you're going to see a ceremony. You're going to see the consistent ceremony that's responsible for a binding of all those watching. Somebody says, Billy, at least know this. There are certain things that are obvious. Plus, you cannot have money in this world unless you're a friend of the king of this world. Do you know one time in where's that at? That was with a relative of mine, and we were going into the Hard Rock Cafe just to get something to eat and just kind of walk out. New York, you guys know how that is. You're not going into the Rock, but prior to going in there, this person told me, now this person doesn't know me, but let me show you how demons work. This person says, stop what you're doing. You need to stop what you're doing, or I'll bring this whole world against you. That's what this person said. Now, I could already discern this was not the person talking. That person, their face was pale. They were quite serious. They didn't know me from Adam. But they said, you need to stop what you're doing, or they would turn this whole world against me. And then they start saying about do not defame the prince or something like that. And they said they had power over this whole earth to turn it against me. That's what they said. That's exactly what they said. And the person walked off. I mean, this person was upset and mad. I mean, they were mad. You know what that was. But see, that's not the first time that statement has been spoken. I tell you that to tell you this. Your servitude, when it's real, you quickly find out what kingdoms you're in the middle of. You also begin to know what occupies these kingdoms around you in truth. This same thing will be found out of many people. Now, many people will fold up in the face of somebody like that through intimidation. That's why some of you were taken through abusive situations. And all somebody need do to you, if it were not for the Lord, all somebody need do to you is start speaking loud. And you would become highly fearful. Now it's time for you all, who, especially those of you who have been in those abusive situations, to ensure that you've turned totally to your Lord. See, when you're confronted, it's going to bring all that back, but the Lord will uproot that from you. And then you'll never fear anybody like that again. All of you gents out there, the war is very real. And if your servitude be true, then let it be true. Don't do anything halfway. I'll tell you why. Because all these dark forces, they know exactly where you stand with the Most High. Do you guys hear me? They know if you're playing in certain areas. They know where you're serious. They know where your seriousness is in your belief. They know. And anybody will do themselves a great disservice if they're haphazardly working on their relationship with Christ. They're multiplying like you wouldn't believe. Their numbers are overflowing. The guy wasn't lying. They do tend to bring the kingdoms down on the heads of those they oppose. But don't fear them. Instead, do your best to be authentic in your relationship with Christ. Don't walk by sight, walk by faith. Your adversary knows exactly who you are, where you are. But what they want you to do is corrupt yourself. When all else fails, they will intimidate you. Rest yourself in the Lord and truth. Because the same way I was tried then, so you'll be tried in other ways. Your fathers, he'll take note of your response. Remember, he said, if you deny him before men, then he'll deny you before the angels. Satan wants you to deny what you are. Why do you think he likes it when you're disobedient? Because whenever we are disobedient, it's in direct denial of who we are. Normally, when we disobey the Most High, we're doing something we have no business doing. And that's exactly where Satan wants us. But I give you that warning, because these things are going to multiply big time. They're going to multiply. Somebody said, how did you respond to that person? I always respond internally. I never speak with my mouth, and they can hear it every single time. If a person were to ever fake doing that, I would know. The real deal does not need to hear the words you speak. I can speak internally without uttering a word, and they can hear. Oh, they can hear it. The same way they can hear you in a dream. They can hear. They don't need to hear your words. And if somebody is ever faking that, well, obviously they're not going to respond to what I'm saying by way of my soul. Now, if it's the real deal, they're going to respond by way of what I'm saying in my soul. They're going to respond. You don't need your mouth to talk to them. Just so you know that. And in my life, that's been countless cases that's happened. Ever since very real conversion. Doesn't mean I had everything right, but I've been tried like this. They try to catch off guard. This person did this in public in front of quite a few people. And this person scared other people. They did. Had I not had a relationship with Christ, the sensation around this person would have been enough to cause a person to stop everything they were doing and just start going backward in life out of fear. But because of Christ, whose power is so far above any power there could ever be, there was no fear after that. It was a great lesson after that. It was. Great learning period. Okay, folks, listen, I'm not going to babble. It's already that time. I'm going to have to go off early tonight because, again, I'm in the KD files, right? Need to get that up for you guys so I can get our contents going and start getting the subjects rolling out. All right? You guys good with that? So the KD files page is changing tonight. Actually, not too far from when I get off air. It'll be changing. And that's going to be a good way of communication from me to you in things that are very uncomfortable spoken out loud. I can go into detail with writing. I really can. I can go into great detail with writing. Illustrations, things of that nature. I think it's a good communication tool. And you guys can evaluate what you see, right? Remember something. The KD files is not for entertainment. You'll see that. But we also want to make it effective for anybody who would go in there and read it too, right? So you guys can help me continually refine the KD files so that they are presentable and easily understood by a very broad audience. Can you guys do that? Can you do that? Now, I'm going to do my best to crunch in everything I can crunch in, okay, into the site and into the building, getting some things prepped for some people to go out there and actually, start employing the usage of what we've been blessed with. It'll be hard at first, but we'll get the hang of it. We'll get the hang of it. And I know what time we're in. You may not know what time you're in exactly, but you know you're very close. Very close. And a time of great transition is coming regardless. Now, I'll tell you this before I go. If you have a relationship with Christ, you do realize that what you're about to go through is not threatening at all. You do realize this. You do realize there is a step you're about to go through that is about pure deliverance, not condemnation. It's about you being lifted up and fulfillment. The final fulfillment of the living God in your life. See, some of you are missing blessings, right? That's what you feel like. You know that the Lord can do so much more that's been done in your life. I'm telling you now, his gift has always been waiting for this moment. It's been waiting for this moment for you. Not for me. Now I'm talking about just you, right? Right? Some of you have been held to this very time. You've been held preserved. You've been isolated, stuck to this very time. You're not going through what everybody else is. See, here's the truth. Many of you have been going through things since the beginning of life. I know I have. There's nothing I can go through now that's going to be worse than what I went through all throughout the duration of my life. See, I didn't escape anything. I had to go through stuff regardless. So the stuff that normal people fear, I've already dealt with most of it. But see, the Lord said, for you, for all of you that do belong to him, that you will see his salvation. Now that's a statement. Do you hear me? That's a statement. To see the salvation of the Lord is to experience his deliverance, is to experience and to know his heart towards you. How about that? See, it's one thing to believe that he loved you. It's another to know he loves you, isn't it? Huh? Isn't it? And when you see his hand at work in the time that we're about to enter into, because take note, in the Bible, the one who does the miracles at the end of time, right, at this time that we live in, is not an apostle, is it? Is it? It's those fake ones that come along. They're the ones that are working miracles and doing all this stuff, right? He said they would come in the name of Christ and deceive people. They would do miracles and deceive people, right? So they would be the ones that do some miraculous things and heal people, but they would all be deceivers. But you know what would happen if a person starts healing people and too many people catch on? Everybody's going to go towards that individual and say, hey, they're the real deal. I got to go see this person. We see that right now. We see that we're in a time where men of whom the Father is not their number one in their life are chasing other men. People are ready to bow to a human figure. Do you know that? They're ready right now to bow. This is, in fact, a season where people are worshiping other people. You're in that time right now. You can see that with quite a few things. People are primed for massive falsehood. Back in the day, they did not bow to another person. Today, they do. They do. They bow to other people. They do that today, don't they? And they will justify anybody they like. Anybody get irritated because people are justifying a person who is, I know I'm telling the truth, because you see people who are not good in your opinion, and you don't understand for the life of you why other people are bowing down to them. You see it with your own eyes, and there's nothing you can say. And you keep saying to yourself, can they not see what they're doing? Yet they do it even more. I'm talking about believer and non-believer alike. You see it yourselves. You're going to see a lot more of that. So my encouragement to you is bow to no man. If that feeling comes along, you destroy it. And you say, no. The Lord is king in my life. The Lord has the high place in my life. Nothing else will sit on the throne in my life. Nothing else. I will not bow to anything but the Most High. You remind everything around you who your Lord and Savior is, King of kings and Lord of lords. That you will lay your crown before his feet, but you will not do it to another human being. You don't worship men. So that when you get that feeling where you want to just, I'm so proud, now what, cast it away from you, far. Keep that man worship away from you. It has taken over far too many people. I've seen grown men get giddy. I've seen them cry and everything else. That should be reserved for the Lord and the Lord alone, not for another human being. Refuse that to come into your life. Because I'll tell you what, those who fall prey to, those who start down that road, soon they will not be able to see what they're doing anymore. They're not going to be able to see what they're doing. I do not want to see you guys like that. Hope you remember that. Okay, folks, I can't hold you too long. Listen, those folks that I prayed for last night, well, I'm working on something for you today while I'm doing the site and everything else. I was thinking about you guys all night last night. The Lord is always willing. He's always willing. So let's get prepared so that we're ready to receive what the Lord has to give us. How about that? And we'll continue that talk we had last night, especially that prayer, especially for those people. We got to be careful not to leave anybody behind. We have to be very careful of that. Very careful. Now, before you say another word, the email is out of the question. That should be fixed tomorrow. It should be. And yes, it totally broke over the sheer number of people that were emailing and some of the nefarious people that were trying to break the systems. We get that a lot. Okay. There's been a lot of things I had to work through with that. Because no one gets, who gets 9,000 emails per hour? Nobody gets that. That number went to an outrageous number. So I had to filter through all that. Also, so listen, just get yourselves, be prepared. We're going somewhere with this. Also, you guys, I got the transparency piece ready for us too. On here. Since we're going into a new era and a new way of doing things, we need to comply with something before it hits the ground and snags everybody. So we're going to be the first ones to really convey some good to everybody else. It's very good that you guys see as much as you can see in the COT website. That will effectively disarm darkness from what they're attempting. I know what they're attempting to do. And then, believe it or not, so far it's been working. Darkness has been prevailing for a little bit, but they can't continue to prevail. See, the battle, during the fight, it may look like darkness is winning sometimes. Right? It may look that way. But when it comes to the whole process, Darkness is doomed. When you're in the fight like that, you cannot look at the fight and say darkness has won. No. It will always look like you're going to be overtaken. It's always going to look like you're about to lose everything. That's not the way it ends. That's not the way it ends. Remember that. So if I could be an example of that, some of you know exactly what I'm talking about, right? Because sometimes the situation looks hopeless, doesn't it? But don't ever call it hopeless. It's okay to look. It's okay to see. It's okay to give somebody the odds of what it is. You just remember the outcome belongs to the Most High. Why does it belong to Him? Because you put that in His hands. If you put the ending in His hands, you're an observer, aren't you? That's right. And you keep going. You keep going with your head held high, doing everything you can do. Everything you can do. No matter what anybody says, you do the best that you can do going forward. And the Lord will see the process through to the end. He'll do it. He'll do it. That's what faith is. Faith is believing, even when everything says give up. That's what faith is. That's what the good fight of faith is. To continue to fight even when everything says there's no point. Continue to fight to keep the faith. Not to lose it, not to give in, to keep the faith. So when all this doubt and negativity comes in, you just simply state, hey, I still believe. I believe. That's what you do. Folks, I'm going to see you next time right here at COT. God bless each of you. And we'll expand our subject matter a bit tomorrow, right? Couldn't do all that today. I got too many things going in too many directions inside of COT and a lot of code all over the place. And I got to get this stuff going quick. So God bless each of you. I'm going to see you next time right here at COT. God bless you.